Hello, and welcome to Symbiosis Perspectives on the Future of Private Practice webinar, our inaugural webinar for the healthcare professionals who are starting their own private practice. We talk with successful private practice owner-operators who share their hard-won experiences. Our goal is to empower you with valuable tips on how to open, operate, and grow your own private practice. I'm your host, Seung-Ho Jung, and I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at Symbiosis. Today, Dr. Subha Nagasubramanian will be joining us to share how she grew her private practice capital physical therapy over 300% in the first 2 years since opening her doors. Dr. Subha is an orthopedic physical therapist with over 15 years of experience. Prior to opening Capital Physical Therapy, Subha received her Master's of Science in Physical Therapy at the University of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, her doctorate of physical therapy from Evidence in Motion in Louisville, Kentucky. Prior to opening Capital Physical Therapy, Subha worked as a clinical physical therapist in some of DC's most well-known physical therapy clinics, such as Spinal Physical Therapy and Orthology, Evidence Physical Therapy, White Oaks Physical Therapy, and Pain Management. Subha is board certified here in Washington, D.C. Subha created Capital Physical Therapy in May of 2017. Capital PT is based in downtown Washington, D.C. Since opening, Capital PT has grown by 300% in revenue in the first 2 years. Capital PT currently has 2 physical therapists, and a third will be joining soon, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Sure.
Yes. So welcome and thank you for your willingness to speak with us today. Let's get right into it. Subha, could you please tell us what inspired you to create Capital Physical Therapy and the journey that you took as one of Symbiosis, as the first partner practice with Symbiosis, essentially?
Hello, thank you for having me. I've been practicing for about 17 years now. And when you start practicing, when you reach a staff clinician for a certain point of time, you want to, choose one way or the other to grow. And for me, the growth was either step into a clinic admin position, clinic administrator, director, and I was not really very thrilled with the idea because it involved a lot of management and lesser hands-on with patients, or open my own practice. And it kind of like, I had a 2-year-old at that time, and it was very difficult for me to think about opening a practice at that time. My colleagues who had worked with me in prior clinics had opened clinics around that time. And I saw that the hours that they put in were like ridiculous. I could not have a work-life balance and not spend time with my child, and which was very important to me. And it was kind of like and that's when I remember clearly that my Arun, who's my husband, and I were hashing this out, and we were like, I was like, okay, my next step is opening a clinic, but I'm not really sure because I don't want to do the admin part, and I don't want to, work into burn the midnight oil and work, 9 to 9 or 8 to 9 or whatever. That's the kind of hours my colleagues were putting in. And so then when Arun suddenly said, okay, how about somebody else did it? And I was like, yes, that would be like a godsend if somebody would take the admin part of it. And I continued seeing my patients. That would be like the perfect thing that I would want. And I'm sure a lot of healthcare providers, almost anyone who won't want to open a practice would want. And so then we set about collecting some market data. So we had some friends of ours, friends of friends, different healthcare providers we spoke to from varying fields, trying to find out if this is something that healthcare providers are open to. And it was an overwhelmingly like a positive response because that's what everyone wanted. They wanted to take care of their patients, but they really didn't want to handle so much of administration time. And so we, took our, took a chance, and we started Symbiosis and Capital Physical Therapy at the same time. And Capital Physical Therapy is inside the location of Symbiosis. And, that's how we started. And it took a while. It took about 9-10 months. We did have a lot of people coming in, but we weren't, it's just a numbers game. Enough people knowing about this, because whoever came were really impressed. But for various reasons, they were not able to start the journey. But we were able to, and within a few months of starting, we were full. So that's my journey, and then I've continued till now.
And one point of clarification. So within the first 10 months, how soon did it take for Capital Physical Therapy as a partner of Symbiosis to reach financial viability as a private practice?
It's probably around a few months, like 5 months, maybe, probably a little less than that even. It didn't take very long because I was able to get into network with insurances pretty quickly. And that also brought in patients, and word of mouth spread rapidly. So I was I was at capacity probably within the first, at capacity, meaning I couldn't squeeze in any more patients within probably 10 months. Yeah. So I had reached financial viability before that, but I was pretty full then 10, 12 months. And I had to, I couldn't, at that point of time, finding a therapist was so challenging. To get another physical therapist who fits in with what you're looking for. Finding a therapist itself was difficult. Finding a therapist who fits your needs was very challenging. It took me a long time.
Yeah, but now that you've grown, and you've grown through COVID, which is the most spectacular thing, how much would you say was that a direct result of your partnership with Symbiosis?
So COVID was very challenging. Of course, with physical therapy, people want to be in person. We did telehealth. So I think that doing telehealth was so easy for me. We were already set up, and it didn't take me hardly any time to be HIPAA compliant, platform. It was so easy. Everything was electronic to begin with, so it was very smooth and easy transition. My front desk that Symbiosis provides was already trained, and it was a piece of cake to transition to telehealth. It took a big hit in the beginning just because there's not any people coming in. But because I'm in this space where I'm using the services and using this kind of leverage, it helps me keep my costs really low. I think that's the biggest thing, because when revenue is not coming in that much, just because of the circumstances, keeping the costs low is very important. So that was one big thing. I don't think I would have survived as a sole practitioner, paying rent, paying front desk, a salary, and doing all this without, by myself.
Yeah, and that is exactly what the Symbiosis system is about, our practice incubator, practice accelerator. Returning back to your journey for Capital Physical Therapy, what would you say were the top 3 key transformative challenges at the very beginning of starting Capital Physical Therapy?
So I think, we as clinicians, I think pretty much a lot of healthcare providers, probably chiropractors have a little bit more knowledge on this, but running a practice or running a business is not something we are taught. And so it's just a lot of not knowing where to even begin, right? You know that you have to start your practice, but finding a location, right? One of the key challenges we had, even with doing for Symbiosis, is finding a correct real estate partner to kind of even show us proper, places to open the clinic in, making sure that's very accessible. Just that comes with location, because it's all about where you are located to have to get greater access. And I think that's a great problem that is already solved by Symbiosis. The second part is the costs, right? That's one of the reasons that their startup costs are prohibitive in starting clinic, because it's not only like in downtown DC, you're paying rent, but you're also the personnel, right? You pay for at least one other person to handle your front desk, scheduling and billing and doing all of that. You need to manage one more person. Then the marketing part, right? It's so different in different parts of the country. Marketing, not even different parts of the country. Like I would say suburbs to like 5 miles, 10 miles out to the center of the city. So the marketing styles and knowing where to even go, the resources, all of this is very challenging. And I think that these are my biggest challenges. Even though I had knowledge about insurance and things like that, I mean, finding people and correct people and resources to do it is the key. And I think in that, Symbiosis helped out a lot, because leveraging the opportunity to find the correct kind of people, to find the location and find the marketing, and doing also reducing your startup costs. My costs were buying a table and like a high-low table and a couple of equipment, versus like paying a lot of like upfront for signing the lease. It's quite different. So
yeah, I agree with you. And there's one thing that I would like to add there, like utilities. DC has some expensive utilities.
Yes.
But Symbiosis, because we cover all the utilities in our practice accelerator, like that minimizes part of the expenses. Thank you very much for sharing that. Now, there's this one particular story I remember when I started working here that you told me about how when you started looking for your clinic space for Capital PT, how the first commercial realtor took you to all these townhomes that have been converted into offices with stairs that was not ADA accessible. Could you tell me more about that story, like for the audience here?
So we had like one of the reputable firms, and we had a realtor, a person who did commercial real estate, show us some spaces in DC. Now we were new to this whole thing, and finding a space, like it was either like over budget, like really fancy places. I'm not sure even it was something we could. It was probably appropriate for healthcare. Kind of office spaces, which would need a lot of like TI, you have to like do a lot of build out and things like that. Or there's really like basement kind of places, townhomes, and there's nothing really. And I was really puzzled. It's like, how do we even go about this? Like this guy is showing me all this, and he was trying to coerce us into getting into this one particular basement space, which had an already established PT facility in the building. And he was just saying, oh, you won't get anything because this is like a healthcare place and it has like a hand washing sink. And that was the major thing about it. So it was like very difficult. And then when we found an appropriate person and we were able to get the thing after we had wasted like 3 months trying to get this guy to show us the right thing. And then when we found the right person, then it was much, much easier. Within the next 3 months, we had found a space and signed a lease, but and it was much more appropriate.
I agree. I mean, a lot of realtors are in it for the commission, and their commissions either come from what we call class A, like high, and glass whistles, like everything. But what I perceived you telling me here is that physical therapy practices need a good, secure location, ADA, disability accessible, elevators, and near public transportation.
Correct. Because I mean, I know several other PTs, and I had clients come from them because they're in this like basement space and they are not AD accessible. And recently, just last week, I had this one client who had like crutches and had to come in, and it was so easy because, and she was just telling the other patients in the waiting room. She was like, "Oh, this is so easy." And they were like trying to help her with the door, and she's like, "Oh, this is just like, we have the button here. This is so easy to get in and out and access." So I mean, it's coming from them, not from us. So I feel very happy when I see that, because my patients are able to get in and get out without a problem. And I've, many people have commented to me about how like accessible the location is. So all in all, it's a win for me.
I mean, that is great. Let's go to, as much as Symbiosis helps and accelerates and incubates a private practice, it's up to the private practice themselves to become a well-run practice. Based upon your 1.5 decades of experience, how would you define and qualify a well-run practice? Excuse me, that's a little bit of a tongue twister. Well-run practice.
So I think the key word for me would be ease of use, right? Like ease of use from every aspect for the customer when they are able to first interact, whether online or on the phone with the practice, how easy it is to get a hold of them, how responsive they are, how accessible and able to, like, I'm able to get to this PT practice without a hassle, or I'm able to schedule my appointments without a problem. I'm able to be seen without a problem. I get notified if there are any changes. My insurance is taken care of, like, every like aspect of usage, right? When people are satisfied like that, and the care is good, and there is follow-up, and there's care afterwards, and a community that supports them. I think that's a very, very well-run practice if you're kind of hitting each of these key points and making sure that it's a hassle-free experience, right? Because we don't want to add another layer of when people are injured, you want to make it easy for them. You don't want to add one more thing that they have to navigate, whether it being the insurance or whether it being the practice or whether it's being transportation. As easy and hassle-free as can be would be the ideal well-run practice, in my opinion.
Thank you. And has partnering with Symbiosis actually, let me ask just very bluntly, has it been easier being our partner, opening, managing, and scaling your own private practice than it would be going at it alone?
Oh, definitely. I started to think that I have to do so much paperwork. I wouldn't be very happy at all. I've learned administration. I could do administration, but I'm not a fan of administration. So I think that in every aspect, be it the easy scheduling, people comment to me every single time. They're like, you don't have to email to get an appointment. They look at the calendar. They're able to schedule. Somebody better, like, they put their insurance information in. They're able to verify benefits, get back to them. I mean, it's so hassle-free for them, and it's hassle-free for me because I don't have to do all that work. That's all set up automatically to perform. And all I'm doing is taking care of patients. I have to do a minimal amount of work, as a practice owner. It's not, it's not like that goes without saying, but it's not burdensome. It's not like a big burden that I have to sit and do all this and take care of every single thing.
Meaning that you can actually leave work at a normal time around 6 p.m., go home and spend the rest of the night with your family without having to do more paperwork.
Yes. The key thing for me is work-life balance. If there is no work-life balance, I don't know, like, I would be interested in doing this, right?
And you are, my experience working with you is you are one of the most disciplined and very balanced people. I know that you work out at 5 a.m. in the morning and you still have time to come into the office before that. And you have a family, and I'm glad that Symbiosis is making this owning, operating, and managing your own private practice less stressful and less hassle. Let me also be blunt again. You have a unique perspective because you are a co-founder of Symbiosis, but you are also its first client. Has Symbiosis met your expectations for a practice accelerator incubator from the perspective of capital physical therapy?
For sure. I mean, like, again, as I said, this is when we had this conversation in the beginning, this is exactly what I envisioned, that I would not have to sit and deal with all this, the other stuff which kind of not my interest. My interest on in patient care and like more, research or academics. I'm not really interested in this thing part of it, but I also would like to have some sort of autonomy to help my patients as it would benefit them without having to answer to productivity needs if I'm part of a bigger operation. So I definitely feel that it has helped me quite a bit. With that, it also has helped me keep my work-life balance, which is, again, helpful. Yeah.
And based upon your experience, what are some common mistakes first-time practice owner-operators make when they're starting their own private practice?
That I think many people don't realize the depth and scope of opening your own practice, right? The vision is good because you would like to do it, but the amount of work that it takes is a lot, right? I mean, there are so many aspects of it, right? Like you got the front desk, personal management, getting all the insurance stuff sorted out. In insurance, there's many parts of it. Just creating the essential credentialing or verifying benefits to there are clinician-specific questions that they're going to ask you. So you can't deal with every single thing. It's just too overwhelming, and it's so hard on personal life. So thinking that you could do it all and jumping into it, I think it just gets overwhelming, and you realize that you could have planned it better. I think that's definitely something. Even with all this help, I could see where all it could be a lot more complicated.
Absolutely, but simply put, when we return back to how you managed to grow your revenue 300%, one of the things you told me when I started working here was, in order to get paid by the insurance companies, you have to meet their deadlines. Has working with Symbiosis helped you meet their deadlines, hence be able to receive payment from the insurance companies, hence, and thus grow your revenue very quickly?
Right, there is great. So the revenue cycle management by the billing company and I, because of being part of Symbiosis, I'm able to select my billing company as well, is that it's quick turnaround, right? So they are able to give us proper benefit verification, so that makes our job easier. And then, of course, submit the bills on time, because that's what's key to getting paid. Making sure they track authorizations so that we are not getting behind on that. And so, within a few weeks, we get paid 2 to 3 weeks on an average, which is pretty good. And then it's all, comes to my bank account, so I don't have to keep depositing checks or anything like that. So it's much more seamless that way. And with having the audit part of it, make sure Symbiosis runs audits for me every month to make sure that we've collected the copays, we have not lost payments. All the things which the follow through is really important, because billing companies do billing for you, but the cost of billing and also the follow up with billing is not that great. And I think that again, Symbiosis has done a great job with it.
So returning a little bit and going a little step, following through in the audits help you catch some of the missed payments, missed copays, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And those quickly add up because let's say you miss 5 copays a month for $40, $50. And then it quickly, 5 times 5, 250 over 12, it quickly adds up. And yeah, so this system of audits and follow-ups really is what is the other column of fueling your 300% revenue growth, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is a major part, the copay and the payments. But also, like I said, authorizations being staying on top of that is another thing that helps us make sure that we get paid for the services provided.
Exactly. So I know a lot of physical therapists, because they get overwhelmed with the paperwork, say, "Oh, I'm just going to take a loss on this patient." What would you tell physical therapists that do that?
It's not sustainable, right? I mean, there's so much you can do, but it's not sustainable to take a hit on several patients, right? I mean, it's like if you go to a store and get something, nobody's going to give it to you for free.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you exactly. And along the same line of questioning, how often should first-time private practice owner operators ask for input from outside help? Should it be all the time? Should it be once in a blue moon?
All the time, right? Because it's just a lot of things. Yep, I would definitely say the input from getting outside input is important. But again, like from people who have done this before, right? And that gets cumbersome if you don't have the right resources.
Yeah, I agree with you there completely. Since we're almost out of time, let's go back. Back to 2017. If you could go back in time and warn yourself not to do something when creating capital physical therapy, what would it be?
Digital marketing. So the way that I grew, like in the beginning when I had patients, right? So I quickly, some of the patients followed me from my last practice, which happens, right? Pretty much people follow the provider. And so some of them were there. And then quickly my population grew by word of mouth. There's a lot of offices surrounding here. So people ask their colleagues for suggestions. And that's how, I would see a bunch of people from the same office, right? So they all come in. So I quickly grew full there. So I attempted a couple of marketing things, and then didn't have time because I saw a single practitioner seeing patients back to back. My schedule was getting full. So I was like, I was not too worried about doing too much digital marketing or getting into it. I had a website and everything was set up and all that, but I didn't get involved so much. But when COVID hit, that interrupted, the people coming to work in DC was really low, right? So people are hopefully avoiding going to therapy or any healthcare for that matter. And they were just trying to also go somewhere close to their house or where they lived or something like that. So that's when it started, the business started taking a hit. But so soon after I started digital marketing. And that within a few months, because of the SEO, really helped boost my practice and build it up. I wish I'd done this earlier, just because it will also mean that I could have hired earlier, I could have expanded earlier. But my mindset was, I want to keep it more focused on patient care. And I focused on it, and I did not realize that doing a digital market early on is really helpful, because the SEO takes time. It's not just about you start tomorrow and you get yourself ranked, in the next week, right? It takes a few months. And if I'd started earlier, I would have gotten more.
Absolutely. And how has Symbiosis's digital marketing services, has it been easy to use, or has it been difficult, or has it been very sort of an adjustment? Why don't you give us a little more detail about the digital marketing aspect? As a partner / user of Symbiosis's Practice Accelerator and our digital marketing services, would you say that this has been much easier to do, or a little more effort than usual?
Not at all. Actually, the digital marketing team does like a great job, right? So they help us. They make it sound easy. They have they're regularly in touch. They give us points that we can work on, so that'll help highlight our business, which is important in this era, because many people just come looking at the reviews and looking at just when you search for certain terms, then our physical therapy practice is highlighted, and so it comes on. So I think that when I started, I was probably in the 4th or 5th page. How much ever good service you provide, people have to know about it. And so if I was in the 5th page, people don't look beyond the 1st page to try and find another physical therapy practice, right? So there's a lot of competition. So finding, that we have been able to consistently come up much higher in rankings. And so that has helped quite a bit. And they're fabulous team. They do a great job with the blog and helping us with a website and helping, whenever talking about different web pages, which are kind of, we have niche specialties, myself and my other therapists. So highlighting that is helpful because we try to get revenue streams from not only the mainstream, but also this niche market. So I have only good things to say about the digital marketing.
Thank you. I will accept that compliment wholeheartedly. So in conclusion, what you've said is for how the our Practice Accelerator, our Symbiosis Practice Accelerator helped you grow was, one, it let you focus on patient care, meaning more time spent with patients. 2, no burnout, meaning you were at the peak or close to your best performance with patients. 3, steady revenue generation through revenue cycle management. And 4 is location study. So all the hard work has been done for you.
Yes.
And that's how you essentially were able to grow 300%.
Right. And I would add one more thing is that besides all this, having a community of like-minded healthcare providers is a great thing, because we just had a mix-up the other day, and I spoke to other of my colleagues who are a psychologist, a primary care doctor. I mean, it's such a great time to learn about other specialties, but also there's lots of opportunities for cross referral, right? And in private practice, you're performing your very best because you have to if you have to survive, you have to really perform really well. It's not about, getting salaried, because this is your reputation stake. So everybody is invested in their own clinics, but they're also invested in the community. And that kind of brings it together for me. And I'm very invested in building a community. And I really feel good that besides all of this, I also get that practicing by myself in one tiny room somewhere, it can get lonely, So
yeah, and having a support community of like-minded practitioners is it's one of our goals, is to build a community of that. And
right,
I'm
and
so
also,
glad you.
Sorry, but I also I can refer. I feel I can refer this patient to that therapist, or the psychologist or the doctor, and I feel like they'd be taken care of really well. So that is really important for my patient, because I view them they view me as a family physical therapist, and I view them as part of the community. So I really need to look out for them, and this provides me an opportunity like that.
That is a very important point that you bring up. Thank you. We're almost at the end of our time. Now, unfortunately, we don't have any Q&A, but if there is let's say somebody who wants to start a private practice in physical therapy or another speech therapy, acupuncturist, psychologist, psychiatrist, what would your words be when they see Symbiosis and they start hesitating and saying, is this the right thing for me? I don't know. This is this is not traditional. What would you tell them?
I would say that first you have to come, meet, talk, understand there's no cost to it, but at least you'll know what's out there. If you take that step, great. If you don't, at least you'll know about it and spread the word. Because these things are it's so hard because we are so in one mindset. Like just before the pandemic, people were thinking their lives were one way, right? And the pandemic came and overturned everything. So what our perception was is completely changed. Similarly, there are many aspects which we might not have explored, and it's very important that we get to know it before making the decision. And in my experience, you won't be disappointed because I'm not disappointed. I'm very happy. And I've talked to many of my patients and the other providers too. And, everybody feels the same in the sense that many patients were scared because they were like, oh, I hope you didn't have to close down your practice, because they were like, oh my God, where do I find, not where do I find, but we've had a relationship where they would come in whenever they, had some sort of injury. And so they feel like, whenever their injury or a family member's injury, they want to come here, right? So I'm saying that kind of relationships we've fostered. And so having Symbiosis as a support has helped us navigate even these tough times. So I think that the first step you take is to come and get more information. If you could do it virtually or if you could come in person, whatever it may be, information will help you at least make the right decision.
Thank you very much for that. And with that, we're out of time. But thank you again for speaking for our seminal webinar, Perspectives on Starting a Private Practice. This was Dr. Subha Nagasubramanian. Her link to Capital Physical Therapy will be in the comments section. She is one of the best physical therapists out there in DC, so please visit. Links also to Symbiosis's Practice Accelerator will be in the comments. Once again, thank you for listening, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you. My pleasure.